Hi folks, David Simpson from the Remedy Project, the Criminal Justice Realm, back again with another one of these videos, these training videos. Man, there's something else, huh? You guys are wondering what's going on, why I gotta do all these training videos. What is this stuff about? Well, as I've been explaining to you guys beforehand, when it comes to doing these things, they're not actually easy, right? It sounds like all you got to do is fill out a form and then come back and do these remedies. What are they? They don't even show you what they are and stuff like that. I'll revisit that in a second. You'll see. But I've been telling you guys that, when you train to do remedies with us here, you would be better remedy writers than the folks who are in prison who are supposed to be doing this stuff. And I'm going to prove that to you. I'm going to show you that I'm not just talking what I'm talking. I'm going to show you that folks who have been incarcerated for years, okay, do not produce remedies that are adequate for themselves or to help themselves out. All right, because there is no training. And at this point, you guys have gone through enough training to which you are already in a better place than many others who are incarcerated. All right, when I'm done with this training video here, you guys are almost going to be elite remedy writers, because at the end of the day, at least you have a very good idea of what proper remedies look like. And remedies that get amongst the hindrances, right? So that's another one of the things. Why I am so good, or I was so good at remedies. Why I am a master and or a guru of this stuff. That I could now come and teach you and train you on what's going on here is because I learned from the hindrances. Whenever they came up with something, I learned how to get around it. And so I incorporated some tactics to help resolve issues that I noticed that staff was having and or staff was using to hinder the process, right? And so now we have a layout that is excellent when it comes to remedies. Right? Okay, so this video here, what are we talking about here in this video? It's talking about formatting administrative remedies, right? Formatting administrative remedies. And what do we mean by that? Well, we mean, what does an administrative remedy actually look like on paper? What does it take to produce proper administrative remedies? What are some of the best practices when it comes to doing administrative remedies, right? And I'm going to show you that. Okay, now first, of course, just a little recap, right? So video number 5, I believe it is, we walked through the BOP handbook, and I stopped at page 52 that talked about the administrative remedy process, and it gave start at the informal resolution, blah, 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 blah. And then it goes into a whole bunch of this procedural law, remember that, right? That you got to follow, right? So you got to file, 20 days, file your 8 and your 9 within 20 days. Then you're going to get it back. The warden has 20 days, plus 20 if he asks for extra time. And then, 20 days to get it to the administrative remedy, the regional office, sorry, you got to get it to the regional office, then the regional office has 30 days regular, then 30 days extra if they want. And then you got, time to respond and so on and so forth, right? And so that's what all of this is about. And it tells you how to appeal and all of that, right? But what it does not do in this area, as I pointed out, was it doesn't even show you what a BP8 looks like. or informal resolution. It doesn't show you the 9, give you an example. Neither do you get examples on how to fill it out, what's the best way or the best practices on filling this out. And of course, why would they? Why would they show you how the best ways to expose them? Right? Because this can be used against them. When, as a matter of fact, whenever it's used, they see it as something being used against them. That's their mentality, right? So when you write saying that you want something, they are saying, oh, well, you want this, and you're accusing us of denying it to you, and it goes on their record, and they look bad, and or you're saying that they're not doing their jobs or not doing their jobs properly, and so they don't want this, don't want these files, and so they're not showing you this stuff. But so besides the process, besides introducing you to the administrative remedy process and its procedural laws, here in the handbook and in the administrative remedy program statement, besides that, the only information you get as per filling out the remedies is this right here. And this is very important. As little bit as it is, it's not even in the administrative remedy program, it's only in the handbook, where they tell you, they kind of like give you an essence of what they want to see when you fill out a remedy, right? And so here it says, when filing a request for administrative remedy or an appeal, BP 9, 10, 11, the form should contain the following information. And they say here, statement of facts, grounds for relief, and relief requested. Okay, so statement of facts, what are this? What is this? What is they, are they looking for? Well, statement of facts, all they're simply looking for when they ask you for the statement of facts is they're looking to hear the individual's story. What happened to them? How it happened to them? Who was responsible or what was responsible? What did they get? What did they didn't get? Who said what? Who did what? Who treated them wrongfully? Who didn't? Who threatened? You want as much information as possible without any arguments or law, policy, or any of that stuff within it. Facts is just facts, the story, what happened, period, right? They need to know what happened. Now, when folks do remedies, and you probably see that in the examples that I'm going to show, where that the incarcerated folks do, you're going to see that they mix their facts up and jumble it up with everything else. Okay? It's not a good practice. When it comes to the facts, you want the facts to be isolated, pure, clean, without any issues, without any extras. What happened from the day, time, you want to put in dates, times, and that type of stuff if you know it, and tell the story of what happened, everyone who was involved, any witnesses or whatever. You want to state the facts, no arguments, anything, okay? That's what they're asking for when they say statement of facts here. Again, grounds for relief, what is that and what are they talking about? Here, they're simply, when they say grounds for relief, they simply want to know what policy, rules, law, or anything that you are relying on that says you deserve or should have what it is that you're requesting or you're talking about, the issue that you're complaining or whatever, right? They simply want to know what it is. Right? What makes you believe that you should have this, or why you think this is possible, and so on and so forth. So in your grounds for relief, a lot of time a person could be quoting the handbook, right? So you could say, oh, in the handbook it says that I should have access to my unit team at least once a week at open house, and they should have open house hours and the time of the open house, right? And you are in the prison and you can't see the unit team. They haven't had, it's a month or two has passed and they haven't held any open house. You can't see anybody. Every time you go there, too busy or whatever. You could do a remedy requesting that they see you because they are violating the handbook policy that says that they should hold an open house. All right, and that they should be allowing you to attend this said open house, right? And so that is the type of thing. So you quote the handbook, right? So how would that go? Again, the statement of facts would be, let's say, since January 31st, I've been trying to see unit team. It's now March 31st, and I haven't been able to see any of my unit team members and talk to them about the issue that I'm having. And when I ask about it, they just tell me, no, we don't have time for that right now. You need to go away and leave us alone, right? That's what case manager John told me. And I went to unit manager and he said, leave them alone. They're too busy. I said something to the warden. The warden said, I ain't got no time for you and that petty stuff. Could you please leave us alone, right? And you say that out, date and times that this thing happened, and that's your facts. And you put that by itself. And then you go to grounds for relief. And in your grounds for relief, you say, hey, the Federal Bureau of Prisons handbook states that I should have access to open house and the unit team once a week, and that they should be holding these open houses at least once a week so that folks who are incarcerated can have access to them, and they're not doing that. Could you guys please make time to see me, or could you guys please start having open houses again so that myself and others could come visit, right? And that last, what I just did there at the end would be your request, right? I'm requesting that you guys see me please, or I'm requesting that you guys start having open houses again like you're supposed to in accordance with the handbook, so that I could come and visit and take care of my issues, right? And so that's what this is supposed to look like. These three things are supposed to look like, right? And I tell you, and I'm going to show you that it's another story in actuality and factuality, because many of folks don't even know about this. They're doing remedies and they have never seen this in the handbook. Most folks, because they never read the handbook, like I told you, right? They learn about the administrative remedy and then they go to the program statement to find it. Somebody who's knowledgeable sends them to the program statement, and they go to the program statement and they get an idea, okay, something exists here with a bunch of rules and regulations that you got and guidelines that you have to follow, and that's it. So they don't know about this stuff, right? They don't get this stuff. Until now, you guys are getting it so you could help them out, right? So, David, why are you talking so bad about these folks who are incarcerated? Why are you saying they don't know what they're doing? I don't know. I got a member, and this is a remedy from one of our remedy project members that reached out to us for help. This example here, the member did themselves, and I want to take time to show you what it is that they do and some of the mistakes that they make as to why remedies suffer in the prison system, right? And this is beside the hindrance, right? So let's get going here. All right, so we have a remedy here from one of our members, Wilbert Hackley. You're right, so he filled out the date. This is a administrative remedy procedure for folks incarcerated, and it's specific to McCreary, Kentucky, right? USP McCreary. So this guy filled this out, the date here. This is date for tracking by the staff. Date return that they gave it back to him, it says. All right, so it looks like they gave it back to him the very same day, right? Register number, his name, his register number, and his unit is placed on it. Okay, and then he fills it out. It says the incarcerated person complaint, and then it goes here, and he's saying no. And so let me just say this: these can be used for complaints or requests. But like I told you, even if you're just simply asking for something, staff has the mindset that you're complaining, right? And so that's why this one just says the inmate's complaint, if I quote it, right? But it's also a request, can also be used for request as a or title request, right? But what is your issue? State your issues, right? What is your issue or your problem? What would you like? How can we help you? That's what should be here, right? And so this guy then starts off, I'm requesting and off the rip. What is the problem? The problem off the rip is this thing is extremely hard to read. Even though this dude, knows how to write, you could tell it's extremely hard to read and jumbled up, right? And what is happening here? He is cramming and or trying to put as much information that he could in this small space, right? Because I guarantee you that this guy believes that this is all the space he has to use, right? He thinks that I have to tell my entire story and get my point through in this short space. And that is not true. And if that were true, then this would be a joke and a waste of time, because it's absolutely impossible for you to get facts, grounds for relief, and a request in this short space if you have a serious issue, right? You just can't do it. This would then be only for simple issues. Okay, like for instance, you're like, man, you're writing a request. Hey, I've been sleeping on the top part of a bunk bed for 2 years now, and I've been here long enough. Can I get a bottom bunk, please? Right? So you sleeping for 2 years now on the top of bunk bed. You put that up here in this part, and then it says here the relief he is requesting. You put, can I get a bottom bunk, please? Right? Because that's what you want. And that's a simple request, simple issue, and that would fit and be just fine on this, right? But, however, if you got a situation like this guy has, as a matter of fact, which I think he is complaining about, if you could make it out, let me see if I can, man, you could barely even make this stuff up. And that's another issue. This is another issue why we help them, because we spend time looking at what they write, trying to make sense out of it, and then put it in better format, so that folks who get it can understand, right? Because it's hard to see what he has going on here. Because Kentucky, I was early U.S. parole district, October during 6 months transit, right? Look at that. It's hard. Instead of being given, okay, it seems like his issue here has something to do with his time not being properly applied, his sentence not being properly applied, because when he was on parole and being transferred, they didn't apply days that were allotted to him to his sentence, the BOP, and that he's trying to get that done, right? It says you have to say what efforts you made to resolve, including staff you contacted, and he puts that he spoke to someone here, right? That's okay, fine. But with a situation like not being applied the correct amount of time, you should be able to explain this in more detail. You want to explain, you want to give more details on how you came to this this concept, this idea, more facts. You can't put it here, and all he doesn't use. You notice he ends here with this. There is no attachment page to this one, I looked. And this says see attached. efforts made by staff to informally resolve. So this is the staff part, and the staff is saying that they provided a response, and they say see attachment 10/21/21 is when they responded, right? And my thing is, just like staff could say see attachment and provide a whole nother page, he could have done the same thing. Now he doesn't know that, right? He doesn't know that, and so he doesn't provide an attachment page with a whole lot more information on it, with better facts and grounds for relief. None of that. He doesn't do any of that. And then on top of that, this stuff is extremely hard to read because he crammed it in, and his handwriting, even though, again, it's good in the sense of, he knows what he's doing when it comes to writing cursive, it's hard to read, right? And he might be stressed out and, struggling mentally. We don't know. I mean, they go through it in prison, man, and this is what you get, right? And then and then let me just say this, and staff get this, and then they have to figure this out. You see, I am struggling. I've been doing this for years, and I've been struggling to figure out what it is he has here. What's he talking about, right? And a staff member who has a lot of work and a lot of people to see, and is going to get this and look at it and say, oh man, I don't even know what to do with this. Who does this go to? And after they do figure out what you're trying to say, now they have to send to the right person. And if you get a bunch of these from different incarcerated folks that is hard to read and you can't make out what's going on, guess what? They don't want to do the work. I don't want to try to figure it out. They don't want to throw it in the trash. But they're going to take it and hide it away and hope that he doesn't come back and say anything about it, because they can't figure it out, right? And if they do, if they can figure out, oh, this looks like an issue for somebody else, they'll probably pass it off. And then when that person gets it, that person doesn't want to deal with this, right? That's what happens. And so that's why I learned all these things. And in best practices, you will see that I make some maneuvers to help fix that stuff, right? Okay, so when it said see attach, this was their attachment here. So the unit team responded to him. This is a response to your BP8 informal resolution regarding credit, right? I was right. Right? So he wasn't getting his full amount of credit at the end of his sentence, and he wanted them to adjust it. Right? He says one unit team receives the NOA from the USPC. A copy is provided to you. Right? You may consider this response satisfying the requirement to your attempt in formal resolution. That's it. Look at how they responded. They looked at that stuff and they said, listen, we got no time for this. I'm not going to try to figure out whether this guy is right about his time not being wrongfully calculated. None of that. We ain't got time for that. All we're going to do is give him this response. And the response is, we gave you a copy. Our copy was received from this agency to this agency, and we gave you a copy, and that's it. We ain't got nothing else to say. We're not going to tell you whether your time is calculated wrong or right, nothing at all. Right? So now he's still in the dark, and he needs to know what his time, what's going on. And so here he goes to the BP9. This is supposed to be the blue form. This is a scanned copy of the blue form. It came out in black and white. All right, sorry about that, because he probably sent us a black. All of this came from the incarcerated person, copies from the incarcerated person to us or as a member, and for us to look at the situation to help see what we could do on it. All right, and so he sent us copies, and so that's why we have a white copy and not a blue copy here, right? Yeah, and so here he does, he's stating the same issue again. It's hard to read. You can't tell facts. I can't see where he's quoting any grounds for relief. I'm sure that he starts off, I'm requesting, so he has his request, right? Again, this is what they provide in the prison system. This is what staff have to deal with a lot of times. And this is when staff, right? This is why I give for the staff a little bit here, is because they have to deal with stuff like this that's hard to read and hard to deal with. All right. And so our job is to make it better for them, right? That's one of the things that we're doing. And so they responded to this here again. You know, I think this basically says the same thing, that they gave him a copy. We don't care what you're talking about. We gave you a copy of whatever it is, right? This the reason I'm walking you through this is not to show you their responses or to address the issue in this, but just to show you what a remedy looks like, what an informal resolution and BP9 filing should look like, right? And so here he does the same thing again on his appeal. Look at it. It's kind of hard, difficult to read, right? You know, file at the regional, and the regional gave him a response. Your appeal, we provided you with a copy. See, to say the same thing. We don't care whether it's right or wrong. We provided you a copy. Figure it out. We don't got time for this nonsense. That's how they look at it. You know, it's a shame, right? So you've seen example one from a person who's incarcerated trying to get something done, and it was difficult. It was difficult to read, understand, and it was just something else. Now, here's a guy that does a little bit better. This guy sends us this remedy. I don't think he filed it, but I think he was going to file this, and when he reached out to us and found out that we could help, he stopped and just sent it to us for us to file it. But in him sending it to us for us to file, in essence, this guy really wanted our help to back his remedy up. So he kind of like did the remedy himself, and he says, you know, you guys do whatever you need to do with this, or send it to whoever for me, or whatever he was thinking, right? But I'm do this remedy, and this is what he did, right? So first thing first, he writes sensitive on it, and from the time I see the sensitive here, I already know that he probably didn't do an administrative remedy informal resolution or BPA. All right, because he's saying it's sensitive. When he says this is sensitive, it means that he doesn't want any regular staff to see it. So he's hoping that this will go straight to the warden, right? And a lot of them, like this guy, would actually skip the warden and try to go straight to the region with his stuff, right? And I want to show you this here. So his is a little bit easier to read. He says this complaint is brought over USB Big Sandy, a building unit team staff members' retaliatory conduct of treating me differently from other incarcerated folks by intentionally recommending the bare minimum amount as possible of my residential reentry center placement, right? Let me put that in layman terms for you, right? They didn't give him enough halfway house time, enough time in the correctional facilities, for reentry, right? This violation of my equal protection clause and my due process rights by federal government actors arise over the retaliatory conduct by employees at the Leavenworth facility who committed an assault by excessive force upon the plaintiff. See attachment 1 for more details. Okay, so here he makes a claim against the staff for treating him differently. His grounds for relief is the discrimination, equal protection clause, right? And his rights by federal government actors arise over retaliatory conduct, right? So, well, it's just equal protection, right? They treat him differently. And then he goes into something else, retaliatory conduct by employees, and then he starts talking about something that happened at Leavenworth, right? And who committed an assault by excessive force upon the plaintiff. Now, one of the things that we covered, and that it covers it in the handbook when you're doing remedies, and in the administrative remedy process, when you're looking at the process on how a remedy should be presented in a kind of way, when it's really about the process and not about how to do this stuff. But the little that they give you on how to do, one of the things that they require is that you don't put two unrelated incidents on one remedy. Right? It will be and can be rejected. And I could tell you that had he filed this stuff that he was doing himself here, this would have been rejected. Why? Because he has two issues. On the top here is an issue for not giving him halfway house, right? He's saying that they discriminated against him and they didn't give him enough halfway house. And down here, he has an issue that happened at a completely another prison where he was assaulted. Two completely unrelated incidents, right? At two different facilities. Now, I am sure, based on my knowledge and my experience, that he's probably making an argument here that one, they gave him less halfway house because of what happened over at Leavenworth. But it's a unique and difficult process to tie those two things together. And personally, I would not have attempted to, would not have tried. All right, there's a way of doing that, and I will show you, because we did it for this guy. So this is what he does, right? And so what he didn't do, he was supposed to put his last name first here, his first name, his register number, his unit, and the institution, right? USP Big Sandy would go up there. He's supposed to date it and sign it, put his signature, so that he could then submit this to his unit counselor. Now, one of the things that you notice here, as a matter of fact, that there is nothing that says anything about a BPA, informal resolution. He didn't do that. He skipped that process. And he tried to skip that process by writing sensitive up here. And that is failure. Okay, that's not going anywhere. And it would have been rejected. And I would show you what is the better way to do that and get by. Because I would agree that some of this stuff is not to be addressed at the unit team level, and that it should go straight to the warden, but you have to prove that, you have to show that. And we would have done that, but still done the informal resolution. It's a must. Okay, I'm not going to go through everything that this guy has here, because he has a lot of pages. I'm just going to run through it. Okay, and I want you to pay attention. So he starts out, this is the attachment to his sensitive BP9, which he didn't do an 8. Again, I'm just pointing stuff out. One, the first violation that he's making of the administrative remedy process is that he skipped the informal resolution process without a proper explanation of why, or proper reasoning why. Two, he provided a BP9 that starts off with two issues, arguing two issues. One that we know, one was at another facility, right? It's two separate issues on the 9. And then he gets down to the continuation or the attachment page, which the BP9 remedy requires by policy that you could only have one attachment page. And that one attachment page should be copied 4 times for each carbon copy of the BP9, right? And so he has attachment 1, attachment 2, attachment 3, and it's going. It's more, right? He's already in violation because he's only supposed to have 1. So when staff gets this, right, he has all this information here that might have been vital to him. When staff gets this remedy, they can either give it back to him, reject him, say we are not accepting it for a couple of reasons. For all your violations. We're not accepting this because of all your violations. You got 2 issues on here, you got more than 1 continuation page, and you didn't do any formal resolution. Reject it. We can't help you. I don't care if the stuff that he has here is legitimate. They're rejecting it all. Right? So he's at a loss. Right? And then let's go further, right? In here it says, staff institution is relying upon good old boy network of penalizing me under false partners under the acts of exceeding its statutory authority, abusing, discretion. He's going off, right? He starts off here with a rant, Okay, he's ranting. Okay, and then he goes here and he says the bare minimum amount of 1 or 2 months reconsideration is an unconstitutional tool misused by a unit manager, and he's going in, right? What did they ask for? They asked for facts. Is he providing facts? The first thing he's supposed to be telling them is what was going on. He's not providing facts. I don't see facts anywhere here. He's quoting grounds for relief, right? And he's going in, right? And so his facts and his grounds for relief are all mixed up here on this issue. And it's a ramble. It's not clear. Action of resolution accepted. His request. Wherefore I request that a consideration more appropriate submission among the time, right? Okay. So he has 2 issues here, right? And here he gets in 1 issue. So staff, if they wanted to do something for this guy, if they didn't want to reject this completely and they wanted to do something for him, right? They would take this, they would accept this. If they accepted it, the fact that he didn't do a remedy, right? They would accept it. If they went past the fact that he had 2 issues there, it wouldn't have mattered because they would have took it and they would have, you did that and this page, right? And the other pages, they would have not paid attention to. They could have torn them off and threw them in the trash if they wanted, because all he was allowed was this 1 page. And on this 1 page, he only addressed 1 issue, right? So his other issues dead. Right? Too many problems. Either which way, he goes to a patch attachment page. You guys need to see this, right? He's violating policy over and over again. They don't have a clue. They just go making stuff up and doing things as they go along, right? Program reentry incentives under Second Chance Act, which the Bureau of Prisons has abandoned these policies in favor of staff malfeasance. This is classic incarcerated person, what we like to say, burnt out, right? Or stressed out. They've been doing too much time, under too much stress, too much abuse, neglect, retaliation, and punishment from staff, till they can't even write a simple request properly. And this is what they're doing, right? And so now, information of factual background. This is supposed to be his facts. He said, backtracking back around September 2020, I was at USP Victorville, transitioning to medium security to Leavenworth because of my institutional good conduct. Well, right. So I think this is the one. We're not addressing these issues. I'm just showing you how they produce remedies, right? I was interviewed. So he's talking about this. And so calling me from him about incident. Attorney Kevin Lawrence then made a phone call, and then he's kind of given facts on this issue here. It goes into disciplinary hearing. He has a different disciplinary hearing. Continues on the 3rd attachment page, which he's not supposed to have, right? I requested that the video shown as 5 evidence, right? And he's going on here, prohibited, and I can't tell what actually happened. I know he's supposed to be complaining about an assault. I don't see where he covered that. I might have skipped over it, right? But what I'm showing you here is this guy, he's going, he's requesting, he's saying he requested something. Then he goes into program statement. Okay, so this is his 4th attachment page that he's not supposed to have on a 9. He goes into program statement number. So now he's quoting policy or grounds for relief, right? Indeed, through expunges an incident report, staff must ensure that the central file, so maybe he had an issue over there and they were supposed to expunge his report and they didn't expunge his report, and now the unit team is using that to give him 2 months halfway house or whatever. That's probably his issue, right? And so that's what he's harping on here. So it's the second issue that's actually on the 9, but you could only have 1, right? And he's kind of like trying to link those 2 things, but no, it's not a proper link. It's not a good, strong link. From very first day I arrived at my destination in USB Big Sandy, I addressed evidence of staff official. So he goes back to Big Sandy and he's ranting on them here, right? Yeah, and he's not done. He's got attachment 6, right? And he's going summary of factual. I was always on incentive server, cognitive level, unit team staff members and manager Carter, who is in charge of the unit team staff members of building in the facility USB Big Sandy. However, the unit manager Carter is always trying to find over dramatic reasons for fault and hindering and delaying medium security transfer. Okay, so he's saying that his unit team is retaliating against him and seeking and trying to find ways to deny him his halfway house and stuff. So he's saying that they based from whatever happened at Leavenworth, the unit team is looking for ways to deny him his halfway house and stress him out and keep him in prison as long as they can. That's what he's ranting about there in that one. He got attachment 7, as you could see, and we're going, right? So it's 3 different issues now we've seen, and this one here, mail classification form dated this date, attached to plan program review dated there, in custody classification, barely handwritten statement for in January when the medium after January 1st, P. Bailey. So this is an incident with another individual is complaining about, right? You see in that complete violations, right? Completely rejected remedy. It's just too much in one remedy, and he keeps going and going. Look at it. That's probably another issue. This is probably another issue. This is going to this is going to be in your training folder in the classroom. You could take a better look at it if you have the time. But it's really just for vision to prove that I'm not just up here talking a bunch of crap. Right? That I am not trying to grind an axe against staff in prison and what's going on. All right, in prisons with these, and that there's not a real issue with administrative remedies and the whole process. Right? So look, you got down here, you got something else going on here. Has not completed his GED, not currently enrolled in programs. He's still going, he's still ranting. Look at this, 13. Now, mind you, if this was one issue or 2 closely related issues presented on an informal resolution, 13 continuation pages or attachment pages, 14 is not a problem, right? Look at where we are. I want you to see this. 15. Had he put this on an informal resolution, it's no problem, because informal resolutions do not have page limits, right? This is why I would have used an informal resolution off the rip. Look at where we at. We're on page 19, attachment 19, term of exceeding 12 months under, and he's still going. He's still going. And what's going on here, right? This is what's going on here. The absolute utter unawareness of how to present how to do this stuff properly. This guy attempted, he tried his best. It's a good thing that we showed up on time, because this here is a mess. All right, so let's go into formatting best practices. Okay, let's go into formatting best practices under formatting, right? What am I talking about? Okay, to get around all the issues and the hindrances, it took me time, right? So when you present something, like in early ons, when I present something, I knew that they wanted facts. So I'll start writing the facts. I'll write the facts from the BPA, continue the facts onto the continuation page, and then go to the grounds for relief and the request. The problem with that is, if you have a long set of facts, or you have a long set of issues, when a staff member gets it and they start looking at it, they have to read your facts in order to figure out who this remedy needs to go to, right? And I realized staff, the counselors, were getting frustrated with that, They don't want to deal with administrative remedies because they're hard to read. Some of them don't necessarily understand and know the process that well. Many of them who do know it that well are going to lie and hinder the process because they don't want to work. They don't want to deal with it. And having to read the entire facts of an individual situation just to figure out which staff member they need to forward that remedy to for it to be addressed. Come on, right? So I realized that was a problem, right? While working early on and talking to dealing with staff and so on, I realized that was a problem. So what I started doing, which is like in many other court documents and other areas, I started presenting an open statement. And my open statement, I would formulate it so it could be a request. By open statement, I request so-and-so because I am being denied so-and-so according to this right or whatever. Let's say according to my religious rights. And what that does off the rip is give the staff member an opportunity to pass that document easily. They don't have to read all the other facts or anything else because they are the counselor, and if it's a religious issue, they don't have nothing to do with that. They can't respond to that. So they could simply take that right away after reading the first couple lines. They could take that and say, here, religious department, this is for you. Right? And a remedy gets passed on smoothly and it comes back and they can pass it back on to the incarcerated smoothly. Right? Facts. This is what they want, right? So I added opening statement. And of course, you have to give the folks what they want. And it's best, if you do a remedy and you leave everything else off, but you lay out the facts properly and sufficiently, you have done a good remedy. I would tell you that. Because anybody who truly wants to help you and knows the rules and regulations based from a properly laid out facts that's easy to read and easy to understand and has things in sequence the way that's supposed to be, can look at it and identify all the violations that happened to you and what happened and what should have not happened and what was correct and what is not an issue and everything else, and address you just by giving the facts. Right? Obviously, sometimes based on the facts, a person wants something. I want you to stop beating me, or I want you to stop hindering my process, or I want you to stop hindering my legal mail, right? You could request that. But if I write you facts explaining how you continuously hinder the mail, obviously I want you to stop. But, no, that's not obvious. You need to give them a request, right? And the courts require that too, because if you just say, staff abuse me, or let me do it this way. If you just say a light fell on my head and, and you give the facts about how the light fell on your head, you got surgery and all that, and you just exhaust that through the remedies, and you don't ask for compensation, the courts will use that, the fact that you didn't ask for compensation, to deny you compensation. Yeah. Right? So kind of like in some cases, the request is important, right? But the most important thing is the facts. You've got to lay that out. Grounds for release. What rules and regulations are being violated? That's what they want. And then I added an argument. Right? Because a lot of the times, staff would look at your stuff and say, oh, you say this, and you say this is being violated, and they act like they don't know what you're talking about because you didn't explain how you were violated. So if you explain how you're violated, that eliminates the ignorance, right? And so I say put in an argument. I add to it and I say put in the argument, explain how they violated this rule or this law. And a lot of times, some of them don't know or don't understand how they violated the rule or the law, right? And by explaining to them, say, oh shit, I did that, let me check. And they'll go check, oh yeah, I really did that, I messed up, let me take care of that. That's how this is supposed to work. A lot of times it doesn't work that way. Humanizing the member. When you're making your argument, I love to input in there, right? That I'm a human being, or if you're writing in the first person, or that Mr. Ramirez didn't deserve to be beaten so badly by the officers because he was not resisting arrest, or he was not doing this, or whatever, right? A human being should not be treated that way. It's outrageous and abhorrent behavior for staff to be stomping and stepping on folks' necks and breaking their ribs and so on just because they said an obscene language, right? This kind of behavior, it should not be expected from professional staff members who are human beings themselves. All right, these are the kind of things that I'm talking about implementing in your argument when you write. I think that it's very powerful and it's very effective. When staff see that, yeah, they feel bad, it hurts them, right? The only downside to that is now they don't want this on their record at all because it hurts more to their uppers, right? So it's kind of like a two-edged sword, right? Putting an argument and humanizing the member in the argument. And then, of course, the request. Now, what it is you want, or what are the things that you want? Because you could want one thing, and you could want 5 things, you could want 10 things. You could even ask for officers to be suspended. You could ask for them to be removed from a unit, or to be separated from you. There's all kind of things. You could ask for monetary relief, punitive damages. You could ask for what you're not being given. You could ask for new mattress, it doesn't matter, right? Now, here's the other thing that I would say about this layout that I'm giving you here. Opening statement should be first, but none of these things here have to be in this exact order. I just like to put them in this exact order because that's what they ask for. But they don't have to be in this exact order, right? You could start off with fact. I would still do the opening statement, of course, to make it easy on staff and to make anyone who reads this just read that first couple lines or paragraph and know what your issue is. Then they don't have to go into your facts. They could then read your grounds for relief that you laid out. They could read your argument, all right? Then your facts, and then your request. Or they could read your opening statement. They could then read your request, your grounds for relief, your argument, and then your facts, right? But I just like to put it in this order because that's the order they originally asked for it in. All right, so this is the beginning, right? This is how you present a remedy, right? Right, so this is what this is about. All right, training you on how to present remedies. Now, moving on to what the TRP remedy using best practices, right? This is a TRP remedy using best practices, right? And we kind of like have the BP9 here first, but we should be dealing with the 8. But, let's go ahead and deal with the 9. Let's give you some pointers. So, unlike Hector Acevedo, so this is Hector Acevedo, same guy that produced that remedy, that BP9, a sensitive BP9, that was not sensitive at all, right? That would have been denied because he skipped the informal resolution. It would have been denied again because he had too many continuation pages, and it would have been denied again because he had too many issues. He had 5 and counting by the time I was finished counting, right? All right, a whole bunch of rambling and stuff, all right? Look at the difference between the one that we are helping him with now and the one that he did, right? So this is a request that the warden address this BP8 attached here to and herein because the unit team cannot address this at their level, right? Clean, simple. What it is, it's a request asking that the warden address the BP8 attached so you know that the BP8 was done, the informal resolution was done. You're asking the warden to do it. because the unit team can't do it. It's outside their scope of work to address such an issue. All right? That's how this is done. And then you say, this is a civil rights complaint. So again, this here is from the 8 transferred to the 9. Now, what is his issue? And this is the opening paragraph, right? This is the opening statement. This is a civil rights complaint against the unjust and negligent actions of Officer K. McQuarrie and Unit Manager Carter at USB Big Sandy for filing a false incident report against me and wrongfully punishing me for no reason. I am requesting that their actions be investigated and disciplined. Right? That's simple. He's supposed to date here, sign this, and turn it into the counselor, who would then turn it over to the warden. That is the process, right? And again, here it points out, very, very important, that the words that I use, that I'm teaching students to use here, that I put in here, is very important. Because sometimes you would hand over a BP9 with an 8 attached, and they would take your 8 and throw it away, give the 9 to the warden. The warden will respond, hey, I don't see that you attempted an informal resolution, and he would reject it. And now you got to go over and start over the process again. So when I put here that a BP8 is attached, it's attached here too and incorporated herein, the warden knows from this language that there is an 8 attached and that he should read it as if it were a part of this BP9. Right? That's the purpose for that initial language at the beginning. And then I state what is there, and I don't have to go any further. Right? Because the 8, the informal resolution that we did, covers it all. Let's look at our informal resolution here again. Our words are spread out. We took time and we spread our words out. This is a civil rights complaint against unjust, right? Negligent. It's the same thing that's here. Same thing, right? The second paragraph there, it's the same thing that we have here. Nothing different. And here's what we say. See BP8 attachment forms, right? See BP8 attachments, right? So in other words, or another word for this is continuation pages, right? CBP8 continuation pages, right? This stuff is there. So the BP8 comes with continuation pages. You can't take away the continuation pages and just submit this BP8 with this alone. Staff love to submit BP8s that look like this. Usually they're the only ones that get submitted. Sometimes they lie and tell folks that you can't do it with extra attachments, or with more than one attachment or continuation page. That rule is only for the 9, not for the 8, right? There's no page limitation on informal resolutions, right? Here, what efforts did he make to informally resolve this? See the BP8 attachment forms, or see the BP8 continuation pages. It's attached. We don't need to try to force this, fill out this stuff crazy, and it's not going anywhere. So we filled this out for him. This Remedy project did this, right? And we passed it on. And so here we go. It's attachment. What is this continuation page or attachment page? Okay, so here at the Remedy project, boom. We like to make it nice and clear what this is. It's a continuation page for informal resolution BP8, right? So it's a continuation page to the form that you just looked at. We like to do that, right? We've put it our logo, the person's name and register number, and who he's assisted by. Why? For us to keep track of who is doing our remedies, and for also the dual purpose of letting staff know that this guy had assistance with this. So he's not by himself. Somebody else is looking at what you're doing. Right? That's why we put that little logo there, and we put the student's name for us to track, and also to let them know that, hey, you know, this guy has assistance, right? And then what do we start with? The very opening statement that we have on the 8 and on the 9 is what we have here. The civil rights complaint against staff for unjust negligence and actions against merit credit, right? Open, boom. When the unit counselor gets this, and they read the BPA, and then they look at the next page and they read this. Okay, this is a complaint against staff, and we can't address this at this level. It's a complaint against staff, needs to go to the warden. Let me turn this over to the warden. I agree that this shouldn't be dealt at our level. And if they do agree that it can be dealt at their level, they'll respond to the 8. They'll respond to the 8, answer the 8 right here, probably attach a page with a response, and then he could go to the 9 and just forward the 9. Right? This is what I say. Boom, facts. On January 15, 2023, USB Big Sandy was on lockdown and the unit officers were conducting cell searches and showers. After our officers conducted a search of my cell, Officer K. Mary asked me if I slept on the bottom bunk. I responded yes. He explained that his phone, right? You see what's going on there? Different from what he did. We had to sift through all the stuff that he said and pull the facts, the relevant facts out, and build him his actual facts, his story, what happened. That is excellent remedy writing. And this student, because I didn't do this, so you could see it was done by Victoria, right? Well trained. Victoria went through there, right, and pulled stuff out. And the stuff that she saw that she didn't recognize from, prison language, that she didn't recognize or didn't understand what it meant, she reached out, right? Hey, what does this mean? What does that mean? What is he talking about here? We respond. Those of us who are formerly incarcerated respond. Hey, this is what that is. This is what that meant. This is what he's talking about. Oh, okay, I get it. And she's able to put forth his facts, right? And breaking his facts down. And look at that. Well-laid facts. And all these paragraphs of facts in sequence, moving on, right? So look up here, she says on January 15th, this paragraph down here, January 20th. So we are in sequence. Whereas formerly incarcerated folks in their misery inside of that place would be telling you this first, and then this last or second, and then this third, and then, and this part is in a different place and all types of stuff, right? So we just ask them, tell us to your best of your ability what happened. And then we take it and we put it in sequence and in proper English, make it easy to read, and so on and so on. If you are going to help someone do an administrative remedy, you got to be capable, you have to be patient and willing to go through that, to look at what they've written and pull out all the relevant facts, because they complain about everything. They get so mad sometimes they reach out for help and they throw everything in the kitchen sink at you so that you could throw it at the warden and the prison. But you can't do that. The policy, the rules doesn't allow for that. You have to do it incident by incident. And so what happened here is she laid out the facts nice and proper, right? And all the people who did him wrong and all that stuff is mentioned here, right? And then she goes into grounds for relief, just like they asked, right? So you saw the opening statement as I taught her, right? Now facts, now grounds for relief, right? As they asked for it. And so prohibited acts 108 states provision, right? Possession of manufacture, introduction of loss of hazardous tools and stuff like abuse and escape, She quotes that according to BOP Handbook on page 35, right number 1 states, you have the right to expect that you will be treated in a respectful, impartial, and fair manner by all staff. That right there you could use in almost every remedy. In almost every remedy that is being violated. You could quote that over and over again. The 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. What they were doing to him was cruel and unusual by making up lies and falsifying stuff and looking for ways to hinder him from to retaliate against him. That's cruel and unusual punishment, right? And she just keeps quoting these policies here. This stuff is going to be in your classroom. And then we go into the argument, all right? Although I was given an incident report that convicted me of possessing a dangerous weapon, this incident report was a straight up lie that grossly misrepresented the reality of the situation. Body armor as listed in the Prohibited Act 108 is defined as something that is hazardous to institutional security or personal safety. It is an object that has been the potential to severely harm another person or aid in my escape. But my exercise gear was in no way capable of harming another person or helping me escape from prison in any way, nor was it body armor. My exercise gear was made out from a few flimsy, flexible, soft sheets of bedding, plastic covers over which bedding and pockets hold sand, and she goes on. You hear that type of explanation? This is excellent work. I'm proud of myself and Victoria here. Why? Because what we have done here and what we're doing and what we expect you to do is the same, right? Is to take his ramblings or folks' ramblings and misery that they put on that paper and make it into something that when you read it, when someone reads it, they get it, they understand and know that, okay, I get it. I feel sorry for this dude, right? So when you read this, you understand that they gave him an incident report for the purpose of finding something to use to deny him halfway house. And they said that something that he made for exercise purpose, for working out, they said it was body armor to be used for attacks, or weaponizing or protecting himself in violent acts, right? And, they did him dirty. They did him dirty. They were getting away with this stuff until we stepped in, right? Right, and so the request. Therefore, I'm requesting that investigation regarding the misconduct of Oscar McCary and Sakata be conducted, and that they be disciplined for their actions, and that I receive a DHO report. So he didn't even receive a DHO report yet, but the DHO found him guilty of this stuff. If I could remember, went to the DHO found him guilty, and the DHO now was holding his DHO report past the time that he was supposed to, and so, they didn't have it. So he couldn't appeal, right? So in his ramblings and probably in some other conversations with him, he explained that he made an exercise vest and that he saw the exercise vest in a particular magazine, right, for the exercise vest. And that's what he built. He built it, and that's what he was using it for, right? And he told us which magazine it was. And Victoria went and looked it up and found the magazine and printed it out where he made the vest for exercising, where he got the idea from, and submitted it as evidence with his remedy. And, it's going to be tough to beat that. That's excellent work. Great work. Now, if you could see, this is evidence, right, that he's not lying about where he got this stuff from, right? And she tells it in his facts, right? Let me go back. So a lot of incarcerated people do here on their own, create their own weights and gear so that they can work out. I wanted to create my own device, so I made this vest and insulated it with different layers of bed sheets and plastics and so on and so forth, right? I thought it was a clever exercise, right? See, it says here, become most legendary fitness challenge ever. It discusses the backstory of fitness challenge Murph, which incorporates body weights such as weighted vests, right? And so Victoria told his facts nice and clean, and then Victoria went on the internet because he doesn't have access to that, and she pulled up, oh shoot, this guy's telling the truth. Look at that, right? Not all criminals lie. Not all slaves lie. Victoria went and pulled this up, right? And she found this story and she attached it, right? And submitted it as evidence to the continuation pages of his BP8, right? And then attached it to his 9 and submitted it. And I promise you, they could not defeat this argument here. Okay, I think Hector Acevedo is actually in the I think we were effective because we gave him 3 powerful remedies, and I believe he made it to the halfway house not long after. I'm waiting to hear from him. I can't wait to hear from him on that one. All right. The remedy project using best practices example 2. What did we do? Hector Acevedo had a bunch of separate issues all on one remedy. We did not follow the same pattern because it would be rejected. What we did was we went separating the issues and doing them in different, right? So this is a request for the warden to address the BP8 attached here too, because the unit team did the same thing. And then we said this is a civil rights complaint against ongoing and unjust negligence. Case manager Sloan and unit manager Carter and staff at USP Big Sandy for refusing to submit my request for an RCC placement and for wrongfully reducing my RCC placement time. I am requesting that they be investigated for that, right? So he dealt with the officers who produced the false, he wrote up the officers that produced the false remedy against him for body armor when all he made was an exercise vest. And then he's now writing up the unit team members for not submitting his halfway house, not giving him enough halfway house, because Hector Acevedo done a lot of time in prison, probably it's over 10 years, probably like 15 years, and should have gotten a full 12 months of halfway house, 6 months of home confinement to help him reintegrate into the society better. And they were not trying to do that. They were trying to give the guy 2 months. What do you think would happen? The guy spent over 10 years in prison, probably 15, gets out of prison, and he gets 2 months in a halfway house, and then he's on the street by himself with a probation officer down his back and no support, because I don't think he had a lot of support. All right. What do you think is going to happen? Stressed out, bugging out, going through it, probably end up back in prison, right? Just horrible, right? But this is what this is addressing, the unit team and what they were doing. And if you look at it again, I'm just going to breeze through this now because you saw what's going on. It's the same pattern. Nothing has changed. We did the remedy, right? Opening statement, facts pertaining to that issue, right? And we stuck in here, right? So he's looking for halfway house and all of that. And then we mentioned, hey, you guys haven't even applied my FSA time credits yet, right? Proxy 790 months image release, right? So he wants to go to the halfway house. They're hindering him, and he's saying all of that. He quotes again, as you could see, grounds for relief. Look at how many Victoria put in here, addressing the different violations and issues that he's complaining about. She lays out his argument here. And in here you will see that she's humanizing the situation, both staff and incarcerated person. Right? Furthermore, as written in the memo regarding FSA, wardens are directed to take into account, right? So, hey, that's more, policy and provide the guy's FSA credits and his stuff and get him out, and so all of that is in here, right? And the these arguments, and therefore this is a request, and she has 4 requests on this one. I request, right? It's the same pattern. This is best practices. This is how you do this. You do a complete BP8 with all your attachment pages. There is no limit to continuation pages on a BP8, right? This one even had exhibits. So this second remedy that we just looked at, I believe had the 8 from the first one that we looked at, yeah, as an exhibit, right? So a BP8 could have its continuation pages. How many continuation pages this one had? It had 3 continuation pages. And then we used the first BP8 as exhibits to that one to prove its point. That's how we link the stories together, right? A BP8 here on this issue, another BP8 here on this issue, but one of them is now an exhibit to the other one. That way, you tie the 2 issues together and they cannot deny it because it's one issue, the other thing is an exhibit, right? To show that why he's saying that he has this problem, right? And so that's why you see exhibit right? And then so you had 3 issues, and there you go, right? That page there from the first issue is exhibit. This is why they're doing what they're doing to me, right? And then this is the 3rd issue. We took 3 of all his ramblings. He rambled about 5 issues, 5 or 6 issues. We took the 3 most powerful issues that he had, and we produced remedies for him on it. This is the same process here, different issue, right? We request that you address the 8 attached here too and incorporate it in. And then we state what the issue here is. Falsified incident reports, deliberately keep incarcerated in high security prison, refuse to request to place in the RCC. I think this one is the actual halfway house request. Using serenity best practices, the civil rights complaint against FCR Leavenworth. So this is Leavenworth and USB Big Sandy for ongoing intentional attacks on violating my right to be free from criminal punishment. They have falsified incident reports, deliberately kept me incarcerated for high security prison, and refused my request to be placed in RCC. Right? Separate issue. Facts. What happened at Leavenworth? Detailed facts telling the story of what happened at Leavenworth. Detailed facts telling the story of what happened at USP Big Sandy. Okay? Right? And it's going facts regarding other deliberate attacks, RCC placement, possession of body armor. Those are the other 2 incident reports. Right? So the other 2 incident reports are going to be linked as exhibits. Right? You got exhibits C, B1 through 3 and exhibits B1 through A1 through 4. So this one has the other 2 remedies that you saw first as exhibits to it. Grounds for relief, what are they violating? And those are there. The argument is here, right? Well laid out. See how many pages we took to do it on a BP8. Doesn't matter. BP8s have no page limit. Only BP9s, 10s, and 11s do. Staff are quick to tell folks who you give remedies for that they cannot submit a BP8 with multiple continuation pages and or attachments. That is a deliberate lie and hindrance of the process. They are trying to hinder the process. All right. And so here we go. And this one, first and foremost, I request Mr. Carter Bailey, another case manager, and they're going abusive and cruel initial appointment. So he has a lot of requests here. Right. So this is what we did. 3 remedies for Mr. Acevedo. Let me use it right. This remedy had his what we call his custody classification form. This is how we know his points and what he's supposed to be at. Variance 1, section, so he has total, he has 21 points here, right? And so on. Greater security, he has a management verbal on him. It was moved on the 30th, right? So these are the things that we use. This stuff is going to be difficult for you guys, so don't worry about it. It takes time. Mentors who are incarcerated, who know this stuff, have to help with this, okay? It's not going to be easy, so don't pay too much attention to that. Right, so that was the attachment, like I said, to his BP8. Right, so example 3. Yes, so we looked at his first BP8 on example 3. We look at the 9, the 8, its continuation pages. This is an exhibit. And then after this exhibit, we now have the other exhibits that were added. The first set of write-ups that were added, added to it. So those are all exhibit 8 is from this remedy. And then it goes this other informal resolution is attached, and this one is exhibit B 1, 2, 3, and this is attached. And so yes, folks, this is what it takes to do proper, solid administrative remedies for folks who are incarcerated. This absolutely exquisite and gorgeous work that you're looking at, produced by Victoria from Columbia University, who's not studying to be a lawyer, by the way, and has done great work to do this process on behalf of folks who are incarcerated. This is what you're joining the Remedy Project to do and to learn, to be able to help folks. This is great. This is what's needed. This is what I'm teaching you to do as you look at the vast difference and quality and so on. This is what staff, you think they don't, they hinder what the others do. Do you think they want this stuff on their record? No, they don't. They don't want it. Victoria is torturing folks here. They're not going to get any raises or promotions anytime soon if this stuff is filed. I am sure when we talk to Hector Acevedo, he's going to say, man, I gave them this stuff, and next thing you know, I was in the halfway house. They didn't even bother to address it. And we had a win like that. We did our very first remedy. The very first students that I trained did that for Adolphus Nowodi. They did his remedy and staff got it. They didn't even file it. They just sent him to the halfway house. They stopped denying him and they just sent him straight to the halfway house. And this probably happened again for Hector Acevedo. I can't wait to find out what happened with him. But I know he's no longer in the horrible USP Sandy. He's now in a halfway house somewhere. So folks, David Simpson again, Remedy Project, Criminal Justice Rem. Glad to be with you. I appreciate you guys for joining the Remedy Project, for sticking it through with me with all this nonsense and learning how to do this stuff, because it's very, very important to helping folks get what they need, you know, in the prison system, to humanize them and make sure that, you know, everything goes well. And they love it. They love the fact that you guys exist, that you care, that you want to help, and that you could produce great remedies that they could never even phantom of producing. They're just amazed when they get this stuff, and the word spreads quickly. And yeah, you know, it's a great thing. So thank you guys for jumping on board with me again, to learn this process, to get involved with this stuff. It's truly amazing. This is going to be in the classroom. You could take a look at it and learn. I'm also going to give those who are now in the physical class the assignments. I gave you an assignment on the video, which is to do the video about the religious denial at the halfway house. And I am sure many of you produced stuff that would look like something like a prison person produced, or didn't have this kind of structure, or look like the Remedy Project produces. Yeah, but now you get to do that. Now you get to go back. Now you have an idea and an example of what should be done and how a proper remedy, what an effective and efficient remedy should look like. And you can go ahead and look at the examples that are provided here and produce such a remedy yourself. You know, this is amazing. I really thank you guys for joining us. Thanks a lot. David Simpson, the Remedy Project, Criminal Justice Realm. We out.